be 6 o'clock straight up, but I would say let's give it maybe 2 more minutes.
Okay.
And then I'll do just a quick thank everybody for coming and kind of let them know the deal. Okay, so thank you everyone for coming. Oh, I will let you know who's talking. I really appreciate the fact that you've all come. We do have a translator, Anna Deering. She has A Deering in her name, so if you want to kind of look for her, scroll through all of our little pictures and find her, and it might be good to have her kind of up front and center. I will be watching the chat, so if you feel like you need to put something in the chat, thank you all so much for coming, and be patient as people continue to get on. We are going to start with copper and then move to Mark Twain. I imagine we'll be on copper for a bit of time, but please definitely ask questions, give thoughts, what ifs, because we want to continue to take information and incorporate it into any designs. And I'm going to mute myself and just watch the chat, but that way you won't get the feedback, because we've got people that are unmuted, and that always makes it a little bit tough for folks to hear. But with that, we have Alexis Persinger and Avery Kant. Avery's he does the magic on the screen a lot of times, while while Alexis is taking us through the designs. Many of these designs have morphed a little bit, sometimes more than others, but we really did try and listen early on to the kinds of conversations that we had last year when we were going through the facility needs for both sites before we even started down this road. So Alexis and his staff have been working weekly, if not more, on just continually trying to really show due diligence that they've heard the concerns. Of course, there are going to be decisions that we have to make because of structural issues or cost issues that may not be totally in concert with what you were hoping for, but I can guarantee you that if you suggested it, they tried it out, and if they went away from it, it was because of either cost or structural integrity, those kinds of things. So with that, I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to turn it over to Alexis and Deering.
Anna, do you want to take a minute to try and do a quick summary of what Paula just said?
Yes, I can summarize right now. La directora superintendente de la escuela del distrito de Mark Twain está diciendo, saludando a los que están atendiendo la conferencia ahorita, y también está presente los arquitectos de la compañía Persinger, y lo que la superintendente estaba diciendo es que los tomaron sus sugestiones que tenían para ideas de la construcción de las escuelas de Copperopolis y de Mark Twain, que tal vez van a poder servir todos los que ustedes, los padres, piden, pero también tiene que tener en mente que a veces el costo de todo lo que está en construcción o las ideas que tienen, pues que no sean completas porque el dinero que está que los requisitos son tal vez muy altos el dinero y también es posible que la construcción no pueda hacer completo por el dinero y también los requisitos que tienen que ser los arquitectos. Go ahead, Paula.
Thank you. So hi, everyone. I'm Alexis Persinger. I'm the principal architect of Persinger Architects, and I'm here tonight with Avery Kant, our Vice President of Operations. And I'm pausing for you, Anna. Should I go a little longer?
Go ahead. El señor arquitecto principal de la compañía de Persinger se introdució ahorita. Go ahead.
Thank you. So we're here tonight. This is one of a series of meetings that are happening through October and November. And we've been meeting with the school board. We've been meeting with school staff, administrators, parents, teachers, and members of the community. Tonight is the second parent night.
Ahorita la conferencia que tenemos ahorita es la segunda conferencia para los padres y también han tenido varias conferencias anteriormente con los distritos de los profesores y todas las trabajadores de la escuela para empezar. Y ahorita ese es el segundo junta que tenemos de los padres. Están invitados. Go ahead.
So we have several opportunities that have come up this fall. And we've gone through this before, but just briefly, I'll touch on them. And they really have to do with funding. So we have an initial modernization grant that the school district is eligible for, that is a certainty that we are planning to apply for in the next few months.
Ahorita han recibido posiblemente un fondo de dinero para que puedan hacer más cambios en los que los padres han sugerido o los profesores del distrito. Go ahead.
In addition, we have some transitional kindergarten funding. And it is, of course, our hope that the local bond will pass this week, and then we would have that funding as well. Because we have those three tiers of funding, we're going to be presenting 3 ideas for you tonight.
Ahorita han recibido 3 bonos que pueden dar del dinero para ayudar a fundar todos las construcciones que están planeando, pero están esperando todavía aprobar uno de los proposiciones que están esperando por el dinero para los fondos.
Avery, I'm going to borrow the share just for a second here. Let's see. So there's 4 kind of key pieces that we're trying to accomplish here. We've got general maintenance. We know that there has been just the district has not had the ability to keep up with the maintenance. And so there's a lot of deferred maintenance at the site. And that would be kind of our foundational thing that we're taking care of, is all that maintenance that just hasn't been kept up with.
Ahorita los proyectos que tienen son 3 mayores requisitos que quieren empezar a trabajar, pero lo general de la mantenencia de los edificios es muy importante ahorita que hagan eso primero y después tienen otros 3 requisitos que vienen que él va a cubrir. Go ahead.
So we have, in addition to the maintenance, we need to provide transitional kindergarten classrooms because the state is requiring us to provide transitional kindergarten, but we don't really have any spaces that are appropriate for TK program.
Ellos quieren arreglar el kinder de los cuartos que necesitan ahorita, que el Estado quiere que es un requisito que llenen la escuela de nosotros. Y ahorita están haciendo esos planes para llenar el requisito que el Estado requisita. Go ahead.
In addition, we have a goal of providing covered pickup and drop-off space, as well as additional bathrooms and renovated bathrooms. And finally, we have a lot of old portables that we really need to get rid of, renovate, or replace.
Ahorita quieren hacer trabajo también en la área donde van a recoger y recoger los niños y también dejarlos en la mañana, en la tarde. Y también tiene que arreglar los baños que necesitan mucho que les ayuden y los arreglen para a los requisitos del Estado. Go ahead.
Avery, will you take the share back? And by the way, thank you all for coming tonight. I really appreciate you spending your evenings, spending some evening time with us and giving us a chance to talk about what we're planning for.
El señor arquitecto, señor Persinger, dice que muchas gracias por haber atendido esta conferencia y que les agradece mucho por su tiempo, porque todos estamos ocupados.
So what you're seeing here is a three-dimensional model of the existing site as it stands right now. Well, almost as it stands. You'll see these 3 elements in blue, which are covered shade structures, these guys here. And these shade structures are planned to be in place in the next month or 2. So we're showing them as existing.
The structures that you're referring to for their blue, are those temporary, you said? Mr. Persinger?
Are they what?
Are they temporary structures, the blue ones you said?
No, they're permanent structures, but they are fabric structures, which is why you see that interesting shape to them.
Okay. Dice el arquitecto, señor Persinger, dice que el azul que ustedes ven en el mapa ahorita son áreas donde va a ser cubrido para los niños para que no esté mucho sol allí o cuando llueve. Go ahead.
These structures are going to go over the existing play areas as well as the bleachers. I'm going to try and, so we have a play area here, and then we have the bleachers. So those will all get shade structures.
El arquitecto dice que todo lo azul que está apuntando ahorita con las señales que está haciendo van a ser todos cubridos para que los niños no tengan mucho sol o que están de los elementos que pasan en el aire, la lluvia, y son diferentes 3 secciones que va a cubrir. Ahí donde está el paste también va a poner que cubra una área para que no tengan mucho sol los niños. Go ahead.
They're mostly for shade, though. They're not going to help with the rain.
Oh, perdón. Solo va a ayudar para el sol, no para la lluvia.
Avery, could we have the first? Thank you. So as I mentioned, we for sure have a modernization grant that's the district is eligible for, that is will take a few years to get or a couple years to get, but it's a for sure thing. And so because we need to provide TK, we're going to be building a combination building at the front of the site. The right side that you see here will be the new administrative office. The left side is going to be the transitional kindergarten.
El señor arquitecto dice que con el dinero que están de fondos que le van a dar, que va a ser tal vez bien cierto el dinero, van a modernizar el edificio que que se va a llamar administración, y a la derecha va a estar un edificio para los niños de kinder.
We heard from a lot of folks. I'm seeing some stuff in the chat here. Shall I address the chat while we're going?
Go ahead, and I was gonna, before you moved on, I was gonna have you answer, so I'll interrupt you for the chat. You just pay attention, but I'll interrupt you and.
Sounds good. So we heard from everyone that the location of the office as it currently stands, which is in the very center of the site, that's here, is inconvenient, it's hard to find, and it does not allow the administrators to have good oversight of who's coming on and off the campus.
El señor arquitecto dice que ahorita, como está localizada la oficina de administración, no está accesible para ciertas personas, así que quieren cambiar de donde está para que sea accesible para todos que entran a la escuela. Go ahead.
So our proposal here is to relocate the office to the front of the site so that the folks in the office have good visual observation of who's coming in and out of the site. And at the same time, because as I mentioned, because we're providing the transitional kindergarten space, that will be housed effectively in the same building. Avery, if you wouldn't mind rotating so we can kind of see the back. Thanks. So that transitional kindergarten space would be entering and exiting into the playground here, which would be fenced completely. And we're still entering through the same central point on the campus, but going directly into that play area and then into transitional kindergarten.
Ahorita el arquitecto dice que como está el edificio ahorita, van a ser más accesibles para que los oficinas de administración también pueden pasar por ahí para que todos vean quién entra y quién sale de la escuela, y van a hacer el kindergarten o el kinder van a ser detrás de la administración del edificio. Go ahead.
So that's our first step. Our second step.
Okay, I'm going to stop you before you go to your second step.
Yeah.
So the first comment is that everything was really great news. The second is requesting or wondering if the bleachers are still movable, and I do believe that they are movable. And Debbie asks how the shade structures will be secured, and I said I would have you speak to that, but to my knowledge, they are permanently secured in the ground.
That's absolutely correct. The shade structures have steel posts. That's the white element you see there. And that steel post is set permanently into the ground.
El arquitecto dice que no pueden moverlos donde están para el paste donde los niños juegan como fútbol y los juegos. Esos los postes que están ahí, no pueden mover los asientos que están. Go ahead.
The next one is a question about how the kitchen delivery trucks will be getting be kind of in that corner of the proposed new building, in which I stated that there will be appropriate striping, and the last parking spot we had talked about would have signage that is very appropriate to making sure that that does not get, especially since the delivery trucks are very specific in their times. And we usually know about them well in advance.
Yep.
Go ahead, Anna.
La superintendente de la escuela dice que hay una pregunta de que si pueden cambiar o poder, cuando vienen los camiones a dejar los contenimientos de comida para los niños, para la escuela. Ella dice que va a asegurar que todo sea correcto cuando lo hagan, dejando la comida o cualquier cosa que vienen a dejar de la escuela para que usen los niños. Y dice que va a asegurar que todo está bien y seguro para que todas las líneas de donde o salgan, todo está bien marcado, todo. Go ahead.
The next question was the age of the buildings. And so the site itself overall is about 70 years old. The portables are varying ages of 30 years or thereabouts. Go ahead, Anna, and then I'll answer the next one.
La pregunta de qué la edad de los edificios son, la superintendente dice que son de 70 años y los demás que son portables son de varias diferentes edades los edificios. Go ahead.
Okay, it asks if the new administration building is actually new construction or moving the existing, and it is new. It is not moving the existing location.
La pregunta que tuvieron es que si querían saber si van a mover el edificio de administración o si va a ser una nueva construcción. Si va a ser una nueva construcción, dijo la superintendente.
The next question is, will they have a point of entry from the visitor parking lot to walk down or around to check in the office? Looks like maybe that one was, so the visitor parking over to the side during this, really, there's a couple of things. We purposefully haven't put fences in yet to determine we want to see the layout, and that will come later. Because we want to make sure that we are responsive to both security and openness, but right now, that's of course a mismatch, and that parking up closer to the office has typically been used for staff. So you will still have parking. You will still have parking along the side of the drop-off, and most kids the drop-off would stay relatively the same. Sorry, Anna, that might have been a lot.
La superintendente dice que van a quedar el frente de la escuela donde se dejan los niños para la mañana y los recogen. No va a tener mucho cambio ahorita. No van a poner cosas de aseguranza de que van a una estructura. No lo van a hacer. Todavía yo creo que están pensando eso. No lo van a hacer, pero no va a haber mucho cambio donde entran y dejan los niños y los recogen en la tarde. Go ahead.
Okay, and then the final thing is we are looking to add a playground with music equipment. Could we get shade over that? I think we can look at maybe continue on with the presentation, and that might get answered. There was a question over, is there a need to have shade over the bleachers? And in order to make that a usable space for kids and a place to kind of that we have found for kids to hang, so, and it's not so hot. And again, for community use in the summer and such, we did feel that that was an important addition to have that shade structure over the bleachers. And then I think you'll see some other areas that may answer the playground music question.
La directora dice que La pregunta que tienen de dónde va a poner el más cubierto para los niños que juegan se llama para jugar el fútbol o el track, dice que van a tener ese cubrido para los niños del sol porque se va a necesitar para no solo la escuela, también para la comunidad cuando usan las actividades en esa área. Go ahead.
All right, Alexis, go on to the next part. That pretty much concludes that part.
Great, thank you, Paula.
Mhm.
Avery, if you wouldn't mind, thank you. So you'll note that it says TK grant here. So there's a second funding source that we're pursuing. This is not a for sure funding source. This is one that we're hopeful about, that we'll be putting an application in February. And if we are successful with that, that would give us some additional funds to be able to continue the goals that we're trying to accomplish on the site. And one of those is covered pickup and drop off. Now this is a hard roof, so it is keeping the rain, the sun, and the snow off of students, as well as giving us a place that we can create a lighted pickup and drop off as we're getting into the winter. You know, it got dark at like 4 o'clock today, so that seems like that'd be important.
El señor arquitecto dice que el dibujo que está enseñando ahorita del arquitecto que quieren buscar los fondos que se llama TK Grant para poder hacer ese parte que cubre a los niños del verano, invierno, pero todavía no tienen los fondos, pero han aplicado ellos para los fondos. Go ahead.
So that's our second phase. And then our third phase, oh, thank you, Avery. I'm skipping ahead. In addition, we have heard that there is really a challenge with restrooms on site. There aren't enough restrooms and they're hard, you know, it's difficult to get to them. And so as part of these first couple of phases, we would be, first of all, renovating the existing restrooms. So bringing them up to a better standard, as well as ideally, we're trying to add restrooms into this main building here. So that building, which currently is the office, would transition into being pull-out spaces, conference spaces, teacher workroom, additional restrooms, kind of a central hub for non-classroom specific things that need to happen on site.
La tercera etapa de esta renovación que el señor arquitecto dice que está enseñándole en el mapa ahorita, va a ser el edificio que ahorita es las oficinas de administración. Ellos quieren hacer en ese edificio nuevos baños que sea más accesible para los niños y también para juntas, oficinas como para juntas también. Go ahead.
We would, so ideally get one or two additional staff restrooms in the center here. And of course, our front administration new building would have restrooms in it as well.
En ese mismo edificio que está enseñando ahorita, dice que también van a hacer baños sanitarios para los niños y para los profesores que trabajan. Go ahead.
Avery, will you transition to 3? So then,
Alexis, before we transition to 3, can you go back? One of the things we talked about was adding the little space. So we wanted a little outdoor space for our kinder. And that's what you see there. That is separate from playground space. So it's like when they're doing exploratory learning with their sand tables and water tables and things like that.
exactly. Thank you, Paula.
Anna, do you want to?
La superintendente o directora del distrito dice que ella está interesada en que el arquitecto enseñe dónde va a ser la área donde puedan jugar los niños de kinder en la escuela. Go ahead.
In addition, we are planning to add another shade element here to shade the existing picnic tables in the central area.
El arquitecto dice que le está enseñando el azul ahorita en el mapa. Dice que así van a ser donde puedan comer con sombra los niños. Go ahead.
Thank you. So with any luck, we will be able to prevail with our local bonds, and that opens up all sorts of new possibilities for us. And that will give us the opportunity to really focus on removing those existing portables that are quite a few years old and replacing them with a new 2-story modular classroom wing, which would be situated such that the upper story would tie into the staff parking up at the top of the hill that you see here, while the lower story would be tying into the grade towards the middle of the campus.
El señor arquitecto dice que con buena suerte que ojalá que le den los fondos con las cosas que pasen para fondar y tener el dinero para poder hacer los cambios que quieren hacer o propósitos que han hecho ahorita para los edificios. Está enseñando el nuevo edificio y que quieren quitar los viejos edificios que tienen y también quitar los que son solo como casitas ahí de temporarias. Go ahead.
So the idea is that we are using the uphill portion of the site for a new staff parking area. Most likely that would be a gated staff parking area, but that then is going to free up our central parking for public parking.
Lo más alto de que está enseñando el arquitecto ahorita, de lo más alto de la tierra donde está para parquear los carros, va a ser para los profesores y los administradores de la escuela. Y también dice que ojalá que pueda hacer para parquear los carros para los padres más amplio. Go ahead.
The other element that is a little hard to visualize, but I don't know if you can spin a little bit, Avery, and show the restroom location. Our idea is to bring in multiple new restrooms. These restrooms, rather than being the old school multiple person restrooms where you've got 5 or 6 kids in the same restroom in different stalls, these are actually individual restrooms for one person at a time. What we've seen is that restroom design fits how we use restrooms better in this century.
Mr. Persinger, can you point with the arrow like you were doing with the restrooms are so I can show? Thank you. Ahorita el señor arquitecto dice que él va a ser el nuevo cosa que van a construir para los baños. Él está apuntando ahorita que son nuevos para una persona un tiempo nomás para que sean más modernos. Go ahead.
We've been using this design on multiple school sites for a number of years. And although folks are often concerned initially that a single student in a single restroom could potentially be an issue, what we've seen is issues like bullying decrease significantly, and just generally it's an easier solution for things like gender neutrality. These restrooms also can be used by staff. We would typically let the staff have a couple of those restrooms that are lockable with the staff having keys. So it's just really trying to solve some of the restroom issues on site.
El arquitecto dice que la forma que van a hacer el edificio de los baños va a ser más moderno, con la idea que los niños pueden entrar a usar, que no hayan problemas de tal vez pelear y problemáticos que puedan pasar, como podemos ver ahora, y también que el diseño va a ser hasta que también dos baños para los profesores o los que están trabajando en la escuela. Go ahead.
And again, just to circle back to where we started. So
Before, Alexis, before you do that, I have a comment that in the chat that Kristen believes that it would be helpful to have a shade element over the proposed kinder area. Oh, yes, over that spot. And then the concern is that the covered area for the bus pickup zone seems, at least in the drawing, that it may be longer than necessary. And so perhaps that the kids don't wait all the way down by the current. They do actually go as far as that, the already, but so where the lines are in the drive, that crosswalk, the kids are there. That's usually where the bus does drop off, right in there, but perhaps not as long down that slope. So it's saying the materials could be divided and allocated to make that happen more efficiently. So, and Anna, that comment is in the chat if it's easier to read as you translate. I don't know.
So something like what I've shown with the arrow.
Perhaps, yes. Is that Kristen, do you want to unmute yourself? And is that what you were thinking, is cutting it off a little bit?
Hi, yeah, that's exactly right. I think that, because during pickup time, I don't think they're even allowed to go down that far because the teachers like to keep a close eye on them.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is obviously just a very preliminary concept. There's all sorts of things that we would want to do, like, well, Avery can show you that we can change the sun angle in the model. So we would want to do a full sun study and make sure that we are, in fact, providing shade. You can see the shade moving there as the sun goes through the sky, providing the shade where we need it to be and keeping the rain off where that needs to happen. There's a lot of details that go into developing something like this. But so this is just very preliminary, but it's very helpful to hear that we've gone a little bit too far down the hill.
El señor arquitecto dice que, bueno, hubo preguntas de una persona aquí en esta conferencia que querían ver más una estructura que cubra a los niños de kinder más, y también quieren que piensen más en la estructura donde van a dejar los niños de kinder y recogerlos también, que haya suficiente cubre para los niños del sol, para cubrirlos más, que no sientan los elementos de lo que está pasando del sol. Go ahead.
Avery, will it break the model if you try and cut that last bay off in real time?
Probably.
Don't worry about that, because we're going to be finishing up. But if there are any last questions, Sam Austin is on, and she and I meet with Alexis and Avery weekly. And so please feel free to, as you think about this, and we'll continue to think, like, for example, if the picnic table area with the shade structure isn't quite what you Copper was thinking in terms of the music playground, or the playground with the music equipment. I think that might be Amanda. We can definitely look for that and send you kind of a thought as we meet again. Look for a place that would be good to place that. So email Sam or myself, or give us a call as you guys think about this. We are going to be doing a Alexis will be in person. If you want to meet and greet at the board meeting on the 17th, I believe is the plan. And so if you want to attend that board meeting, I believe it's at Mark Twain, and here in person, or if you would like to us just to share out, we can definitely do that. Sorry, Anna, go ahead.
La superintendente o directora Paula dice que si ustedes tienen algunas ideas y que pueden darle a ella, que por favor mándenlas, y que va a haber una conferencia el 17 si quieren atender, para más ideas que le puedan dar a ella y al señor arquitecto. Go ahead.
But I think with that, and I would hope they, if any of you want to stay, I'm hoping all of you will stay, but we're going to get ready to transition in just a couple of minutes over to Mark Twain. So I would hope that you would all stay and look at that. But again, if there's any thoughts that, you know, you wake up in the middle of the night and say, oh my gosh, what about this? Please, please, please get in touch with Samurai.
La señora directora dice que por favor, si quieren seguir atendiendo esta conferencia ahora, que por favor sigan atendiendo y que vean la segunda etapa de la escuela de Mark Twain, los edificios y cómo el arquitecto va, los planes que van a hacer. Y si tienen sugestiones o ideas, por favor, que están en la medianoche, se las viene, por favor, dice ella, que se los den a él o que tengan a la conferencia que va a ser el 17. Go ahead, Paula.
Let's see. Do you have any fun thoughts, Alexis?
You know, I was just going to kind of bring it back to the beginning, to just say, this is the vision, the ultimate vision for the site. And it'll be, as it always is in public school construction, it'll be stages. The very first stage is really to get a handle on some of that basic maintenance that needs to happen to get the school site painted, to get the bathrooms renovated. And then we're moving into getting that TK space, the office relocated, and more shade on the site. And of course, ultimately, we're hoping to be able to do the 2-story building and get rid of all the portables.
To piggyback on that, or go ahead, Anna, and then I'll piggyback on that real quick.
Okay, el señor arquitecto dice que con ellos lo que desean, claro, va a ser por etapas. La primera sería que se arreglen los baños y que haya estructura para que no quede mucho sol para los niños, después renovar los edificios y todo depende también en los fondos que van a recibir. Go ahead, Paula.
So with the different grants, so for example, the modernization for TK or that first office would be beginning in the summer. Then the rest of it, of course, we'll know tomorrow if we're successful in the passing of the bond. And if we are not, that doesn't mean that this all goes away. It just means that we need to look for other funding sources that may take a little bit longer or may require some adjustments. But I just want everyone to know that, of course, and so our goal is that you would see much of this beginning in 2024, the summer of 2024 at the latest, unless we have to go for a lot more different kinds of funds.
La señora superintendente directora dice que para empezar van a hacer arreglar el TK o de kinder, la sección donde dejan los niños y recogen, pero después de esos fondos van a esperar que el propósito, la proposición que si haya pasado después de mañana van a saber más si pueden recibir los demás fondos para seguir con la construcción y las estructuras para el sol para los niños. Ahorita tienen que esperar. Go ahead, Paula.
Sorry about that. Unless Alexis, you have some final thoughts, we will transition over to Mark Twain. But for all of you that were here just specifically for copper, thank you, and please be in touch.
Sounds great.
Ahora van a trasladar para la escuela de Mark Twain, la siguiente sección de la conferencia ahorita.
Yes,
Alexis, it doesn't look like we have a huge number of new folks coming on. We might want to wait just a minute just to make sure there aren't Mark Twain folks. For those of you that are still on, please feel free to use the chat. And as we go through the Mark Twain and then cite, but I don't know that you're going to need to repeat kind of the whole background history for these folks.
Okay, that sounds good. Should we take a 5-minute break? Give everybody a chance to grab a cup of.
I think we should take a 2-minute break.
2-minute break.
Yes, I don't want to lose momentum. So 2 minutes, we'll wait. But that way Anna can maybe take a drink.
Yeah. I prepared tonight. I made sure to have a little soda water. It's a lot of talking.
It is a lot of talking, but it's a lot of great information. So I appreciate it.
I wish we could get, how is it working with the translator? Is that working out okay for folks?
Let's see. Vanessa, how's it working with the translator? Is it smooth enough?
Yes, it's beautiful. Perfect.
Thank you.
Great.
By my clock, we have another minute to get started. Okay, I think we're gonna get started. And again, thank you for all of you that are choosing to stay on, and thank you for the those of you that just joined or perhaps haven't been with us very long. I will be just manning the chat. So if you have anything you want to type in, please do. Or you're welcome to just unmute yourself and ask a question. So with that, go ahead.
Anna?
A la señora superintendente, bienvenidos a los que están atendiendo o también los que se quedaron a seguir atendiendo la conferencia. Que si tienen preguntas, por favor, mande por chat o también pueden tomar y o abrir su micrófono para poder preguntar sus preguntas. Go ahead.
Well, hi, everybody. We're now transitioning over to Mark Twain, and it's going to be similar structure. We have kind of 3 tiers of potential funding. We have our basic modernization, which is a for sure thing. We have our transitional kindergarten funding, which is a hopeful but not a for sure thing. And then, of course, we have the local bond, which we'll hopefully know about this week. So starting with right now, what you're seeing is the existing site.
Bienvenidos. Ahorita va a cubrir la etapa de la conferencia para la escuela de Mark Twain y como dijo anteriormente de los fondos, también es importante que van a haber 3 partes o etapas. Uno va a ser el fondo básico, el fondo de la kinder y el fondo de los bonos que dan localmente para la construcción de la escuela.
So here we're beginning with the existing site, just to orient you. Stanislaus Avenue is on the bottom here. Let me get my, so we've got Stanislaus here along this road. And right here in the middle, there's a gravel parking lot, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, right here.
El arquitecto ahorita está enseñando el mapa de la calle Stanislaus y también donde parquean los trabajadores de los profesores y de faculty, en donde él ha puesto el rectángulo allí de rojo. Go ahead.
So we heard some of the feedback that we got from parents was they weren't really happy about the kindergarten play area being so close to the road. So right now the kindergarten play area is here, and folks felt like they didn't really like that location. And so that was one thing we were trying to address. And the second thing is that we need to provide transitional kindergarten, TK, but we don't really have a transitional kindergarten appropriate classroom or classrooms.
El arquitecto dice que ahorita tuvieron muchas como preguntas o cuestiones que no le gustaba a los padres dónde está la área para lo que los niños de kinder están jugando, que él puso un poquito puso la área de rojo allí en el mapa y que están pensando cómo van a hacer las construcciones para el kinder y donde puedan jugar. Go ahead.
Avery, if you wouldn't mind showing the first transition. So our idea here is to place a new TK series, 2 new TK classrooms into this building here. We would be relocating the play area from its position near the street to this more sheltered position on the other side of a new paved parking lot.
La idea que tiene el arquitecto ahorita de poner el edificio del kindergarten para los estudiantes es donde está enseñando las señales rojas ahorita y también donde puedan jugar está cubrido para el sol para los kinder del niño que están yendo al kindergarten. Go ahead.
So this new parking lot now is providing a buffer zone as well as giving us pickup and drop off for the TK program. And of course, we would be fencing it all the way around.
Van a cubrir con mucho, para aseguranza de los niños del kinder, van a tener esa sección va a ser para parquear y que recojan a los niños, donde estaba enseñando con las rayas rojas ahorita, y va a ser para más seguridad para los niños y no están a frente en la calle. Go ahead.
It's important to note that there would be appropriate gating so that parents of TK students can take their children directly into the kindergarten area or the TK area. And there's probably going to be another gated entry over on the other side of the current bathrooms. Again, we would work that out as we get farther along in the process.
¿Van a asegurar como con alambre el fencing que van a poner para que no pueda entrar nadie en la escuela o la sección donde está el kinder? La superintendente dijo ahorita. Go ahead.
The other foundational thing, which is difficult to show visually in our model, is that we do know this site has had many, many years of just not enough maintenance funding. And so there's a lot of maintenance that needs to be done. The restrooms need to be cleaned up. Everything needs to be painted. We've got tripping hazards. We've got cracked paving, underground utilities. There's a lot of maintenance that you can't see it in the model, but that first phase is one of the key pieces, is really getting maintenance taken care of and catching the school up.
Al señor arquitecto quiere decir que hay muchas cosas que no puede uno ver con los ojos inmediatamente, que es problemática para los niños y las que trabajan en la escuela, donde tienen que arreglar donde está el cemento, que hay muchos hoyos que se pueden caer los niños, y hay que arreglar los baños que no están suficientes como de ser modernizados, y también quiere hacer otras cosas de estructura que no se ve uno, y pintura que necesita mucho se necesita la pintura en los edificios que están en la escuela ahorita. Go ahead.
So that's our first step. In addition to our modernization grant, which is for sure money, we'll be applying for TK, an additional TK grant. The state has been signaling that they're planning to put more money into TK facilities. And so we'll be applying in February for transitional kindergarten funding. And if we're able to succeed with that, that'll let us go a little bit further in our ultimate vision for the site.
Ahorita el estado de California está dando los fondos para arreglar de kinder y TK, pero dice el señor arquitecto que también van a aplicar para más fondos, que el estado está señalando que quieren dar más dinero, fondos para arreglar el kinder y también el TK, las áreas que necesitan. Go ahead.
So if we are able to get that TK funding, that will allow us to go into our second phase here. Avery, if you wouldn't mind putting up the second tier. So there's a couple of things that are happening. One is we're starting to get shade where we need shade. So we're starting to get, why is my thing not working? There it goes. So we're putting shade structures over the existing playground, shade structures over areas like here, and a new pickup and drop off covered walkway area, which will provide not only shade, but also rain and snow protection, as well as a place for lights and a way to add a little bit of aesthetic beauty and a more welcoming entry feel to the main front of the site.
El arquitecto está diciendo que ahorita donde están las señales rojas, dice que quieren el fondo, que la segunda etapa, que si llegan a tener los fondos, eso van a arreglar, de poner más para que del sol, que cubre los niños del sol cuando estén jugando. En las rayas rojas hay varias, y también donde van a recoger y dejar a los niños en la mañana y en la tarde también. Esa sería la segunda etapa. Go ahead.
And of course, our ultimate vision for the site will be able to be realized, if you wouldn't mind, Avery, will be able to be realized if we can prevail with the local bond. Ooh, that was a little bit of an abrupt transition. I'll stop there and let you jump in. Anna.
La visión que tiene el arquitecto para cambios que va a hacer con más fondos que ojalá que le den, les va a enseñar ahorita en el mapa. Go ahead.
So the main elements of this new concept are, we're taking the existing older portables, we're relocating them into these 2 wings, and we're going through each building from the roof to the foundation and replacing all of those things in a portable building that make it portable and make it not long-term sustainably maintainable by school staff.
El arquitecto dice que con los fondos que le dan en el futuro, que quieren mover los edificios que son movibles y van a quitar el techo y las paredes y posiblemente moverlos y que sean más modernizados, más o menos. Go ahead.
Avery, would you mind queuing up the Mountain Vista project just for a minute? So some examples of the things that would need to be done to the buildings are redoing the foundations, strengthening the floors so that they're not bouncy, redoing the siding to get rid of the plywood siding and use cementitious siding, and going through and putting new roofs on everything.
El arquitecto dice que los edificios, está enseñando ahorita los edificios que quieren renovar, que son movibles, es el techo, que va a ser nuevo techo, y la fundación del piso, que no se muevan y sean, que así vean muy feos. Ahorita le está enseñando el edificio que se van a ver los mismos movibles, los edificios movibles, pero lo van a renovar, que se vean como está enseñando ahorita. Go ahead.
And of course, we would be replacing all of the wearable surfaces, new carpets, new ceilings, new lights, new doors and windows. The ultimate goal is, there's nothing really wrong with the basic frame of a portable. It's just that there's a lot of inexpensive materials that are used. And so we're replacing those materials with things like the tile that you see there, which is a forever material instead of a short-term material.
El arquitecto dice que ellos quieren cambiar las cosas que son en los edificios movibles, que sean más durables. Ahorita no son tan durables el material que han usado, de los techos, de las paredes, y ellos quieren que dure más el edificio con lo que planean hacerlos. Go ahead.
Thank you.
So that, Alexis, I'm going to interrupt. This might be, this might help Shannon, your son, to just kind of see that the basketball courts are transformed a little bit and freshened up, so that you have, we've taken care of his concern of the basketball courts. And then he'll have to hit up Ms. Shaw for basketball pumps and basketballs. That'll be an aside. And then, so our new modular would have yes. So I think it would be good to go back to the drawing, just because so people are seeing, because we're starting to get more specific questions about restrooms and things like that.
Great.
So back to the portable, the new bond portion, if we're there still.
And I'm waiting for you. Are you going to tackle that one?
El superintendente dice que hay preguntas que tienen para poner el nuevo baños que quiere saber la gente cómo van a hacer los cambios. Go ahead.
So yes, one of the important elements, in addition to, of course, renovating all the existing restrooms on campus, we know that down here in the upper grades, it's really an issue with the one portable restroom that's been closed off now and abandoned. And so our idea is that we would be bringing in a new restroom building. And that one, maybe you can zoom in on that one, Avery. Again, we're using this idea of single person, single user restrooms. They're gender neutral, and they help address some of the bullying and just things that happen in the old school multiple person restrooms.
Ahorita el arquitecto está enseñando los nuevos, bueno, que quieren cambiar los baños que existen, pero no están usando ahorita, que son movibles, pero quieren renovarlos y hacer esta diseña que están enseñando ahorita de los baños que sea para una persona nomás. Eso termina de hacer lo problemático con que los niños no se porten bien, de que vean peleando algo así. Ellos quieren evitar todo eso. Go ahead.
So for those of you that are trying to get your bearings, this particular restroom building is up against the library because we moved the portables that were there back to the back side where we saw before. So just so that white building where the little oval pointer is actually the library, the current library building, just for people to have a point of reference.
Ahorita el superintendente dice que el edificio que es blanco y están señalando ahora el donde van a hacer los baños va a ser detrás de la biblioteca.
So, and I mentioned it earlier, but we often get folks asking questions about, well, what happens with this new style of restroom? Doesn't it create other issues? And although it's easy to imagine that it could, our experience now on several school sites is that it performs better. Students like it more. There's less issues with the restrooms in this configuration.
El arquitecto dice que con estas preguntas que a veces que tengan de que la eficiencia o que si son diferentes el modernizando los baños, sí acaba o corta la necesidad de que hayan menos pleitos o problemas con los niños que usándolos. Go ahead.
In addition, some of the other features of this proposed design is we would be bringing in a small greenhouse and creating this central green space, garden space, and also a place for students who just want to sit quietly and visit with their friends.
El arquitecto dice que a pesar de este diseño que están enseñando de los baños, también quiere enseñar que va a ser a frente de los baños va a haber jardines o asientos que los niños puedan relajarse un poco cerca de los baños. Go ahead.
I do have so there was a question about the bathrooms, which I think is why. So the single are not the only ones. That all the restrooms that you see marked RR here are our current restrooms. And those are renovated in the very first stage. So we're actually bringing more restrooms than we already have.
Yeah, that's these elements here.
Ahorita es donde está enseñando el arquitecto con las señales rojas y la superintendente dice que son baños que existen y que van a renovarlos, pero también parece que van a ser los nuevos que acaba de enseñar donde estaban los jardines también. Go ahead.
Alexis, just something to think about for you and Avery is that one of our students is suggesting that maybe there are permanent codes to enter those restrooms so that if a person is vaping or doing something they shouldn't, there would be a way to do that. So that's just something for us to think about in the future. It's a great suggestion. And then I have one hand up. Ashley, I think that might be Ashley Sullivan, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask.
It is. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I was just wondering, what is the green and brown where some of our classrooms are now that you said would be turned into those new portables? Yes, that area. What would that be?
So that's taking our old garden area. And one of the things that came up in our last meeting was that our intermediate, probably 5th grade but definitely 7th and 8th grade, don't really, so you've got the kids that are very active either on the track or on the basketball court, but we also have students that just want a space to chill during those times. And we don't really have a place, and our garden, our current garden is tucked back where nobody really sees it. So we're bringing it to the forefront. And so those are ways it adds. And the other comment that we had was there's so much asphalt at Mark Twain. So we wanted to bring in some green space, and that's what you're seeing. And then those cement areas are where students can just sit and chill.
Awesome. Okay.
So
And
they,
then,
go ahead.
so, sorry, just one more piece. So then I see the shade that's over by the new portable area, but will there be anything else added to like that bigger plate, the basketball court areas for like rainy days and stuff?
So we have a couple of concepts that we've been kicking around. One is to relocate the picnic tables to that shaded space right here that you're seeing. And then if you turn around to the tree, Avery, we also identified over by there's a large tree by the track that underneath that tree might be a good place. It's sort of hard to see, but underneath that tree would be a good place to have more shady seating areas.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Anna, do you want to?
I'll do a quick summary.
Yeah, try.
Ha habido varias preguntas que le han puesto al arquitecto y la señora Paula, la superintendente, y dicen que querían saber si van a haber más áreas para que los niños tengan afuera de los elementos del sol o que puedan relajarse, porque parece que hay mucho cemento en toda la escuela y el arquitecto les aseguró que van a tratar de planear en áreas que ellos puedan tener más partes de comer como de picnic y también áreas para que cubrir del sol. Go ahead.
And we haven't thought about any shade structures, of course. I think the idea of, sprucing up the basketball courts, that goes also with some of the uneven pavement and fixing that. But I mean, we still need a place where, balls can go high into the air without any kind of craziness. So that there will still be that large area of open air, nothing obstructing that spot.
La señora superintendente dice que también quieren una área que los niños puedan jugar como básquetbol y que todavía están pensando tal vez a mejorar la área, pero sí va a haber esa área para que jueguen y que todavía exista. Go ahead.
So there's a couple, I see a question in the chat and I think I'm going to answer it now.
I think you are too.
There's a couple other elements that I'd like to point out in the concept. If you wouldn't mind rotating, Avery, so we can see the back of the buildings. Our thought was to add doors to the back of each classroom and to have kind of an outdoor classroom space fenced off that would allow students or teachers to go out into an enclosed but outdoor space for learning outside.
El señor arquitecto está enseñando ahorita el edificio de la escuela que están las clases de los niños, los cuartos de los niños donde estudian, y está enseñando ahorita áreas donde sea verde o partes de que puedan los niños jugar o relajarse o sentarse y que haya paste ahí, o para que se relajen y gocen un poquito diferente las cosas de los estudios. Go ahead.
The other element that, if you can show our small breakout space at the end there. So I know right now one of the portables out there is broken out into small offices. And so we would be relocating that building to the end here to kind of a central location. And the idea again is a series of smaller breakout spaces. Could be a counseling office, could be a place for a few people to meet, special ed, any of those smaller programs that don't need a full classroom would be housed in this building, as well as most likely we would have similar offices at the end of this wing.
El arquitecto dice que van a haber cambios que quieren ellos hacer en la diseño del edificio, y ahorita como están los edificios que se mueven, ellos quieren hacerlo diferente, pero también que todavía existen para hacer conferencias, cuartos de conferencias o de citas para los profesores, y que les den más eficiencia en los edificios. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna just a couple of things to add. So the question is, why are the buildings not squared off to the property lines? This leaves a lot of unused space. Actually, we originally had it squared off. And one of the things that came back from the staff is that whole area feels really disjointed and, you know, really cut off from the rest of the school site. And the staff shared that one of the things they would like is it to be tucked in a little bit closer so that it has you know, full school feeling. But you know, that's something that's still in the final. We can continue to talk about that, but that bringing them up a little bit and really was really partly due to staff input. We are gaining 4 classrooms, so 3 classrooms plus an office space. So given that we do have places to grow, so it doesn't kind of hold us back from that, but that's the reason why. Good question though, and we have to continue to look at it.
La señora superintendente dice que habían preguntas porque los edificios y también la facultad, los profesores querían saber por qué estaba muy lejos los edificios portables ahorita, que querían que se sintieran más cerca o más unidos a las demás estructuras de la escuela, y también quieren, pues, para la señora superintendente dice que tal vez van a hacer algo para que se muevan más cerca las estructuras que están más lejos ahorita en este momento. Go ahead.
I did want to also add, there was a question in the chat. The bleachers, the current red bleachers, we are proposing a shade structure over that and over the little playground that is currently out in the South 40 by the portables. So we are looking at adding those shade structures as well.
La señora superintendente dice que ahorita los planes de ser más área donde cubre los niños del sol, que están apuntando las señales rojas ahorita, que sí hay planes para hacerlo más eficiente para los niños contra el sol. Go ahead.
And then Anna, could you, because I don't read Spanish, could you take care of the Spanish chat.
Okay, because I wasn't monitoring, Paula.
No, yeah, can you see the chat at all?
No, I
Oh
can't.
dear. Vanessa, can you read to us the chat? You're on, can you see the chat? I can't. I don't know if they're questions or not questions. I don't know if Vanessa's still on.
Yeah, I'm not able to access it.
I think the question was from Vanessa.
I was just telling the group that if they're wanting to ask a question, to ask it in the chat, they can type it in Spanish and we can read it.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. I was just saying it looks awesome. Everything looks really nice. And I said it in English and in Spanish.
Thank you.
Yes.
Great. So kind of to tie it back together, we have some funding opportunities, things like the modernization grant, which is a for sure thing in the next few years. The TK funding, which is not a for sure thing, but we're very hopeful. And of course, we're very hopeful that our local bond will pass this week.
El señor arquitecto dice que están varios fondos, como 3 que existen. El primero sí, ya tienen el fondo del dinero para hacer la primera etapa. La segunda están esperando que pasen las proposiciones y después el futuro, la tercera etapa, también esperan que ojalá reciban los otros fondos para hacer las estructuras de los cambios que quieren hacer. Go ahead.
I would just like to say, if you have, as Vanessa said, or for any of our other folks, Sam, Austin, and I meet regularly with Alexis and Avery. And so please, if something comes to thought that you want to share, I can guarantee you that every idea that's come to us, we have tried it, played it out. If we didn't go with a particular idea, it's been because of either structural integrity of a building or cost inefficiency because we have to move electrical or something like that. So we've really tried to incorporate everything that we've heard, even clear back to the facilities meetings that we had last spring. So you know, we're not in the final stage. Alexis will be here on the 17th to kind of go over this again with the board. And so again, we have thought about things. We've put things in, we've taken things out. People have continued to give us thoughts. To Scott's point about that whole why are we tucking them in? That was actually something that the staff talked about over the course of like 2 weeks and then came back to us with the thought. So again, this is very preliminary. Things can change. There are still some things that need to be, you know, ironed out in terms of like, where does a gate go and things like that. But please, please, please get a hold of us because this is, you know, a visionary for sure.
La señora superintendente dice que si por favor tienen ideas que se le vienen a mente, por favor díganla y de las sugestiones. Por favor también, todo esto es una visión y que las ideas todas son buenas. Va a haber una conferencia el 17 de este mes para que te tienen atender y llegar con ideas. Por favor, tráiganlas. Y todo esto es una visión que ellos quieren hacer con los edificios y la escuela. Y por favor, tengan sus ideas que quieren, si tal vez las pueden hacer, no las pueden hacer. Si no se puede hacer es por dinero, el fondo que tengan de hacer, o la estructura, la integridad de los edificios también no es posible, o el cable de electricidad no se puede hacer, puede también el dinero, así que muchas cosas tienen que tomar en cuenta cuando están haciendo los edificios y los cambios. Go ahead, Paul.
So we have, oh, go ahead, Paula.
Nope, that's all I have. You finish this out.
Okay, so we have these funding opportunities and our basic idea is tiers. We're taking it in stages. The very foundational piece is just getting all that maintenance taken care of, cleaning things up, making things safer, repaving things, cleaning up restrooms. And then we've got to get our TK space happening and more shade on the campus and those portables replaced. And this is the vision. Whether this vision comes to fruition immediately or it's multiple stages, this is kind of where we're hoping ultimately to go.
El arquitecto dice que con la visión que tienen de arreglar las cosas en la escuela, la visión también va a ser por etapas y que con los fondos también que les den para poder hacer los cambios, quieren arreglar los baños, pintar los edificios que de veras necesitan mucho pintura. Así va a ser por etapas con los fondos según cómo se dan para la escuela. Go ahead.
And I think we've really hit the high points. I so appreciate so many folks being willing to spend a big part of their evening listening, contributing, and it's been really great to have you all here tonight. And so thank you so much.
Just
Go ahead.
go ahead, Anna, and then I'll give you, there's 2 final thoughts.
Okay. El señor arquitecto quiere decir gracias por atender esta conferencia, que tomó una hora o más, pero muchas gracias por atender y por sus ideas que han mandado. Go ahead.
In the chat, it says, I can appreciate the staff's perspective on pulling the classrooms closer as well as utilizing all the space. I would love to see a solution that provides both, such as storage buildings, etc., paint space, craft space, if the buildings were squared off. So that's certainly something that we can continue to look at. Hopefully there will be more meetings regarding that. Nothing is an absolute until it's an absolute. Isn't that the way of education? And then the last comment is just that individual bathrooms is a wonderful idea.
La señora superintendente dice que hubo un comentario en el chat que dijeron que qué bueno que van a tratar de mover los edificios más cerca, que no estén muy lejos, los portables, y también que muchas gracias por asistir y que ojalá que tengan más ideas y que las manden por comentarios. Gracias. Go ahead.
Paula, do you want to wrap us up here or shall I?
Go ahead.
I see that we're just at about the 7:30 mark. Again, thank you all for your many ideas and suggestions. And as Paula mentioned, this is just the beginning. Will be multiple opportunities like this throughout the year to provide feedback and ideas. And we're looking forward to having a chance to continue that dialogue with you all.